Hello, everyone. Hi, how are we all doing? I'm hoping that this is a much more flawless takeoff than last time. Right, that's the plan. Anyway, hey, hello. It is me. It is DM Dan. Welcome to the Tavern Between Dimensions, episode 2. Hello, Carl. How are you doing? Oh. Hang on. We can't hear you. We can't hear Carl. We cannot hear Carl. That's a good question. Are you though?
I just fully accepted that.
Well, okay. I mean, it's a stream things.
Please hold.
Please.
Why are we being weird today?
What,
eh?
don't know. Like, I'm coming through all the channels as I should be. So
It works now. Thank you in the chat.
Hey,
I believe
as I was saying, getting used to fatherhood. I'm tired. I could use more sleep, but I wouldn't miss coming to the tavern for anything. Even bad sound issues and everything else I said. Streams, they go wrong, but there's only one way to go, and that's up.
I can assure you that everything that you missed out on as a viewer was deeply profound and meaningful.
Mm-hmm. I was dropping truth bombs.
Yeah. Hello, Lane. How you doing?
Hello. Not bad. Had a fucking awful day at work, but I'm here now, so it's better.
Beautiful. Wonderful. Yeah, there's slightly fewer of us than there were last time, but thank you two for coming along. So yeah, just like the whole point of the tavern was almost just to be like a Friday night social down the pub with your mates, just to chat about anything and everything, really. And I guess one of the things that certainly I've wanted to talk about, because I don't know, I built a YouTube channel around it, was well, yes, the title of the stream. Like, what is Elsewhere? What am an Elsewhere?
Why is Elsewhere?
Who is Elsewhere? How is
When
Elsewhere?
is Elsewhere? Yeah. All those questions.
Because yeah, it's a big. I think it was a pretty big thing for us, for me, to kind of go, hey, we did a test run campaign that was multiple years long with Cormier, and that went pretty all right. So what's the next step? Can we create something specific that works in like a YouTube format that helps as a viewer? It would be kind of interesting to tag along with, and I guess we got Elsewhere. But I mean, as far as you two are concerned, sort of like with the the whole idea was episodic campaigns. What do you think of when I first kind of announced that idea?
Well, it's obviously still in its infancy, so we haven't actually got out the first side of one yet. So it's kind of hard to say, because until we come out the other side, I don't know. But the idea of the shorter campaigns, I think, is better. So one thing we definitely discussed was the sort of the length of them and how much story you get out for keeping them short. And so far, there's been enough story. There's been enough sort of time for each player to have a moment to shine, to have a little bit like story to themselves. So far, pretty good. How it will reflect in sort of season 2, so to speak, once year 2. We're doing it by years, aren't we? Not season by years, almost.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, that's it would be very easy for me to just say campaign 2 is called year 2.
Yeah, but I get the feeling that's not what you're gonna do.
I mean, I certainly have plans. as of this moment, we're not halfway through the first episode, so the first campaign. So I'm legally bound to not talk about the second campaign until we get closer to the end of that.
But it's good because I think, not to decry sort of call me, but I think sometimes with a long campaign you have the desire to want to just put out loads and loads of tendrils to start with, and they just see like they get tendrils and they get tendrils and they get tendrils. So you're juggling so much because the campaign's going on for so long. I guess having the small form is going to be sort of good in the sense that you have to tell a tighter story.
Yeah, it was definitely a moment during Cormier, like when we got into the last kind of like 15 episodes, like 10-15 episodes, that I kind of went, oh no, I've got so many plot threads to resolve. Right. Oh no.
Yeah. I remember you telling me about this when I was just around your place.
Yeah, it's it was intense. But Lane, how are you finding like how are you finding like a shorter campaign? Like, is it like, do you have more experience with like one shots, short term, longer terms? Like, what's your deal?
Far more experience with longer stuff that I sort of try to set up, like you said, as many little plot threads as I can. Find the ones that my players like to have grabbed onto, and then work around those. I think the real sort of what's the word? The real pro of a sort of shorter, more dense game is that from a character creation perspective, I have to choose what's really important to the character and put that forward as a focal point. Yeah,
because I mean, when you've only got like 3 levels to express, like I guess you're not going to express a character that's built on mechanics, right?
Yeah, right.
It's almost like you are seeing a snapshot of a character's life, so to speak. You're not going to be seeing their entire journey. You're going to be seeing a part of it.
You're going to be seeing like a really important moment in their life.
Yeah, that's fair.
And it might not even be their most important moment. And that's what I kind of like about it, honestly.
It's it's like it, because it makes me wonder, because obviously with campaigns like, you know, the 3 Critical Role campaigns, or I noticed High Rollers have just aired their penultimate episode of the second campaign, like Erois, and that's like episode 190, I think, from memory. Like, those games have been going a long time. A long time. But there was a part, you know, both of them, like Matt Mercer, Mark Hulmes, like, they've both run multiple campaigns in the same campaign world. And so, you know, that was definitely something that I thought was really, really interesting. But then there was a part of me that thought, would it be nicer to have, like, to nip to different points of the world, of the setting, over the space of a year? Like, because, you know, Critical Role campaign, they'll spend, 3 years sort of in the same place. Like, a big asterisk there. But I don't know, like, obviously campaign 1 we're focusing on the town of New Prosper, like, that's happened now. Campaign 2 will happen on a different place. Campaign 3, and it's just, I feel like, you can change up the themes, you can change up the settings, you can, and also because you're quick snapping more, it's easier. I feel it's easier to watch. Like, I don't know if you've ever looked at someone, like another actual play, and gone, oh, they are 150 episodes in, I better get listening.
But I think what's also kind of interesting about the fact that you've kind of made a run for your back as well, but given like the players a lot of freedom to sort of like tell their stories and stuff. It'd be interesting to see if like we visit any of the places that we've mentioned, like Hugelstadt or Glasmere or Varos, like exploring those places and seeing how you sort of bring them to life on purely the descriptions the players have thrown you bit by bit over time with the first campaign. So the fact there'll be a bit more sort of world building, I think it's going to be interesting to see how you juggle that one.
Yeah, I think that's going to be an interesting bit, isn't it? Like me taking the ideas that you guys throw at me, either just in kind of conversation or from your characters. So I mean, obviously you just mentioned Glasmere, and then seeing how well I can bludgeon you with them in later stories. Just quickly, as a quick aside, how long do you think the Elsewhere campaign will go on for? Question from Nate. Hopefully a while. I mean, I guess the other, like each campaign is 20 episodes. Like I've been quite, I'm being quite strict on myself with that, because I mean it works for example, like Dimension 20. They seem to cover quite a lot of ground in 20 episodes, and they're shorter than ours, so we've kind of got no excuse.
I mean, they also plan stuff out beforehand.
Arguably, yeah. I mean, well, maybe. I mean, I know it's well presented in that, but in terms of like the campaign as a whole, yeah, I feel like we can keep going as long as there are like new RPG systems to play with. So I mean, I'm pretty confident that the second campaign won't be D&D. And I've got like there's a system I've got in mind, there's a storyline I've got in mind, like completely change up the themes, completely change up the vibe of it, because you know the whole point of the channel originally was to like play lots of RPGs, and I found in Cormier it was just like I'm gonna be playing D&D until I die at this rate, when there are just so many incredible systems otherwise, like in Shadowrun, the Shadowrun campaign, the Sprawl campaign, the Shadowrun inspired campaign, like
The Inspired, yeah.
that was my first first taste of like Powered by the Apocalypse, and I really like that. Really like it. I think it's just refreshing just to have like when we're not playing D&D in the main campaign, and we can play D&D in the one shots and so on and so forth, and switch around.
I mean, I've got stuff I definitely want to run for the channel.
Right.
Well, actually, that was a question I had for you, Dan. Like, and then we can go to the some of the other questions. Yes, that is a cat in the background, Nate. Do you see yourself as only ever sort of saying in the DM seat, or would you sometimes would you ever want to be in the player seat, or would you ever take sort of a more backseat role of sort of just producing and letting someone else run it for you while you sort of just did sort of the writing and editing, so to speak?
Dan, get your ass in the player seat while I'm DMing or GMing.
I could if I'm in the player seat, then the world catches fire, I thought.
Yeah. Well, the world's catching fire, Dan.
Like there's like I think realistic, like certainly for like one shots and that, I'm definitely more than happy to jump into the player seat. Obviously we've had a couple of the charity streams where I've played like games from the charity streams, I should say, where I've played as a player. I know for example, I definitely want to get Call of Cthulhu out on the channel. So, like Lane, I know you're very interested. Matt from the Gourmet campaign, he's run a few games of that, and I'd love to play that rather than run it. Yeah, maybe we'll see. I mean, with the main campaigns, I feel like most of the time it's got to be me because this schmuck's got to plan and edit it all. So.
What was the question? Would you ever sort of like see yourself as maybe just sort of taking the sort of back seat to let someone else take over for you, so you have more time?
I don't see that happening.
No, I don't see that
maybe
happening.
for one or two.
Yeah.
Like maybe as a player for one or two, but I don't.
Yeah, when they develop cloning technology, then I'll sit in the play seat.
Let's maybe some other questions then.
sorry, Nate, just to kind of top off your question, do I have it all planned out, or is it just a let's see? It's I'm trying to make it as like let's see as I can. That said, ADHD brain makes me think of new campaigns with alarming frequency. So like I say, I already have a pretty good idea what campaign 2's gonna be about, but only in a very kind of broad sense. And I feel like, you know, when we're going through campaign 2 and I'm thinking about campaign 3, I think it would just be a case of like what's vibing, what feels good, what are we missing, you know, what would be a nice change.
How can I torture my players?
Yeah, right. And then just kind of, and then once I've got that idea, then just kind of go, right, what's the best RPG system for it? And yeah, just kind of use that, like the choice of RPGs are arguably one of the bigger points to think about. Because yeah, I like, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love D&D, but I also love other RPGs. I really want to kind of get to grips with them for more than just.
And there are so many good ones, like.
Yeah.
Vampire the Masquerade.
Vampire the Masquerade, for example. The short campaign, you have time for more one-shots or explore other systems. Theoretically, yeah. Theoretically. I mean, we've certainly had, since we started the new campaign, like year 1, we've had more non-main campaign games. As of right, obviously the Fallout 1-shot turned into a 4-shot.
And it's turning into more.
well, I'll come back to that. Yeah, so we played Fallout, we played all the one-page RPGs. We've got the Sprawl, like Powered by the Apocalypse. Yeah, there's an idea. I'm thinking, depending on how crazy things get, I'd love to do like little weekend live streams. Just like one day, and do like 1 to 3 like one-shots, just to tinker around with other systems. Even if like the one-page RPGs that we play, so like Honey Heist, Witch is Dead,
Super Normal,
Goblin Quest, like they have actually been some of the most fun I've had, and certainly Sorcerer Supreme.
Oh, Sorcerer Supreme.
Which that was an RPG from Reddit. That was sublime. I really want, like, I haven't laughed that hard in quite a while, but I really want to do
okay,
that.
just you wait until I run the Paul Blart D12 RPG then.
Amazing. But yeah, the Fallout, we mentioned Fallout a bit earlier. I would I've mused that when the Shadowrun mini campaign comes to an end, I would like to do something similar, like have it as my like off campaign, but do Fallout. Whether or not I'd use the Modiphius rules, I don't know. I might look about by the Apocalypse, to be fair, but just the raw juiciness that you could squeeze out of that lore was just amazing. And yeah, whether or not I set it in London or not, I mean, by the time it happens, it'll probably be around about the time that Fallout London, the game, comes out. So that might be a nice time.
I mean, I've got a few systems I'd love to run for the
Same.
channel.
Same.
I'd love to run Call of Cthulhu. I've got a lot planned for that. I could fuck you guys up with that real bad. I'd love to run Monster of the Week. That's my absolute favorite system. I love it so much.
Good.
I want to run it. And I'm also working on 2 RPGs of my own that I'd also love to run.
Just to keep yourself busy,
Yeah.
So, let's quickly grab. We've got loads of questions.
Yeah.
How long have I been planning this campaign world? Right, yeah, bring it back to elsewhere. I mean, I don't think it's a very easily quantifiable number, is it?
No, because because Elsewhere's not just been one Elsewhere. There's been sort of like iterations. Of it, hasn't there?
Yeah. I mean, certainly this world with like the Lorivar and the sprites and so on and so forth. That, oh crikey. I mean, that's been bouncing around in my head for a while. Much in the same way that Cormier was bouncing around in my head for yonks before we actually sat down and played it. But yeah, it's just I think a lot of RPG players will kind of relate when it's just like you can have loads and loads of game ideas, like campaign ideas. It's just finding the time to, like the time and the people to actually pull it off.
I think we've got a good bunch here, though.
No, you're all right.
Okay, I'll go fuck myself then. Jesus.
Yeah, no, it's so it was just a bit of a happy coincidence that I had this idea, and it was just like all brand new races, well, like lineages, all brand new world. Like I could take the monster manual and I could start reskinning things and giving things new abilities, and like very, very forcefully kind of kill the meta, meta knowledge.
Yeah.
But then use that as an excuse to just like freely world build back up. So yeah, it's weird because I think a lot of people, when they kind of daydream about their campaign worlds for a while, they'll go into loads and loads and loads of detail, and I've almost had to like not do that because I didn't want to be the only one piecing this together.
Yeah.
Yeah, fingers crossed. We'll so. In answer to summarize, a very long time, but trying not to think about it too much.
This next one's a bit off the wall.
From Sheldon.
From Sheldon, yeah.
Hi, Sheldon.
Hi, Sheldon.
Seeing as it's Tavern Between Dimensions, if you could name a meal or drink based around your current characters, what would you call it and what would it be? Go, Carl, go.
No, come back to me.
Alright. Galen, go.
Oh, fuck. Milia is a virgin lemon drop martini.
Yeah, can't complain with that. Can't argue with that.
Oh, I don't know. Like, I feel Comstock needs to be something quite normal and plain, but actually something that you really enjoy eating, like, or drinking, like.
I feel like Comstock is like a Guinness, but inexplicably there's like some fudge floating around in it.
Why the fudge?
I don't know, just for that little like when you're ploughing
fudge
through.
in my Guinness.
Yeah, when you're spooning out the
Take a
Guinness.
drink, you feel something touch your lips, and you go, "Oh,
Yeah.
oh, what?"
Someone said Comstock's a potato, like, which I guess a potato
potatoes.
is quite plain, but you can turn it into lots of like really good foods.
Yeah,
Yeah.
vodka.
Yeah, that's well, like, ooh. I mean, plain but versatile. Yes. Thank you, Shadoshki. But yeah, I don't know. I built Comstock to be uncomplicated, and it's just become like one of the most like.
Comstock is a warm milk. That's
comforting and puts you
With
to
a
sleep.
potato in it.
with a potato. A slice of potato.
Like, a sliced garnished potato.
Yes.
But yeah. I think that's all the question we got at the moment. So
I mean, well, okay. So let's bring it back to our main our opening question. Like, what is elsewhere? I mean, it'd be interesting actually to hear from you two. Obviously, we're doing the relatively stock fantasy D&D type. There's a few weird and wonderful bits going in. I'm really trying to push up on. But like, what themes or genres do you two think would be really interesting to play in for like future campaigns?
Do I have to say it?
Go.
Cosmic horror.
Well, here's the thing. Like, we could just say that because, like, if everyone agrees to it, let's say, for example, I turn around and go, okay, cool. Campaign 3 is, well, Call of Cthulhu or whatever. And then I have to sit there and go, okay, we need to now world build what is the cosmic horror, because that doesn't arguably exist at the moment. Like, there's the idea of like, oh, it's probably there, but we haven't put
Amelia's cult.
We haven't put a face to it, right? Well, yeah, exactly. So you could, like, through the beauty of like meaningful retcons or meticulous planning. But yeah, cosmic horror. That'd be. Can you do cosmic horror as like a long-ish form campaign?
Yeah.
Well, you'd build up to whatever the horror is. So it's I guess it would be all a suspense, a thriller in the sort of more sense. You're building up sort of like as a thriller, sort of building up to something.
The way I see cosmic horror in this sort of thing with like maybe 20 episodes max would be a sort of bad end scenario. Hey, this is the story of something that went really wrong.
Yeah, go through 40
and we are
hours,
watching this happen in the past.
40 hours of campaign time, and then the finale, everyone just opens up like zits and just turn into fleshy stars and just start soaring across the galaxy.
Before I comment on what I would like to think about, I had an idea once for a short campaign that you'd start the campaign at the end, where you're seeing everything going wrong, and then you basically flash back to like the rest of the campaign would be sort of like.
You say the first episode of the campaign starts with a, yeah, this is me.
Yeah, fundamentally. But more like when you sort of see a film and there's like devastation anywhere, and there's basically the heroes having that final fight, and then it sort of like flashes back to how they got to that stage, and then you. Obviously, the downside to that is once a character dies halfway through the campaign, you've just got like paradox. But
it's, I guess, yeah, there's merit to, I say, well, at the risk of using them as an excuse too many times, as an example too many times, but like Critical Role and Dimension 20 have now done prequel campaigns to their main campaigns, with Brennan and Matt swapping places. So yeah, that's an interesting one. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I have genuinely thought, oh, would it be really cool to do a campaign or one shot or whatever mini campaign based on the Eschaton, like having higher level characters during a war where god dragons are flying around and tearing things up.
That'd be pretty cool. I mean, I'd love to see like one of two types. Number one, an urban campaign, sort of a low, not low level, but basically more normal people. So not sort of our massive sort of D&D magic slingers and everything, but normal people in like an urban campaign, or like a war epic. So there's like a big war going on, like who knows, something's gone wrong, big war has happened, broken out and elsewhere, like Glasmere or Hugelstat's under siege, and it's basically you trying to sort of like navigate the army's things. But that's the two that I'd really
using the thirsty sword lesbians rule set. Yeah, dramatic fight on a cliffside with the general of the enemy army, and then you catch each other's eyes during a parry, and then in that moment. Yeah, I reckon that could work. We can make that work. Yeah, I just trying to think of if there's other. So urban, the whole urban fantasy thing, 100%. Cosmic horror, that'd be really, really cool. I mean, I don't know. Hello, cat. I don't know whether. Is there something whimsical? Like, could we imagine I mean, for example, something like Goblin Quest, but somehow turn that into a 20-episode campaign. I mean, you know, you just have
Definitely some sort of heisty sort of campaign where basically a series of heists, kind of like the way it's Grand Theft Auto but in Elsewhere, Grand Theft Auto 5 in Elsewhere, just a series of heists, and each sort of episode of 5 is like a heist. Kind of way Andor worked, like just short arcs, but to make one big one. But yeah, that'd be kind of funny.
That would be fun. I mean, I guess the other interesting thing for me, obviously, the campaign themes will change up, but it's just the stuff that we add along the way, just like the new, will I, how often will I be introducing new cultures, new lineages or heritages, new, obviously new places, but that's an interesting one. I mean, potentially, like, Matt, who was in the Cormare campaign, is now running a Frost, Rhyme of the Frost Maiden. Frost.
Okay.
Right. Frost. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Rhyme of the Frost Maiden.
Icewind Dale.
Icewind Dale.
I have opinions about that game.
But like, I look at games like Frost Maiden, like Tomb of Annihilation, to a certain extent, Curse Strahd, where the exploration bit is so fundamentally like hex based. And like certainly for year one, there was a part of me that was just like, do I lean in on the hex based bit? But then there was a part of me that felt, I don't know if that fits in a 20 episode format.
Damn, like having the urban setting, but each hex is like a district you can take over and do a big gang war, and then just having like the map shifting.
You're just describing Blades in the Dark.
Am I?
Blades in the Dark, what's that? Right. A superhero game. Could we do...
Dan, I would love to run a superhero game.
Maybe that should be the Eschaton War one, and just...
a whole superhero series, yeah.
Yeah, we all know that like high level D&D just breaks at the seams, so sod it. Let's just play superhero games. Like fantasy eyes all of the superhero tropes and just have people running around like flying around on bolts of lightning, punching dragons in the face.
I mean, sort of like a Herculean style character, yeah.
Right.
The dragons have given their powers to mortals, and oops.
Elsewhere, 6,000 years in the future.
Yeah.
Elsewhere, 2099 AD.
Yeah.
I'll be off.
Elsewhere 299 is just the name of the cop show.
So, yeah, okay. I mean, we've certainly got some ideas for campaign 3.
That's what we're here for, Dan. Although we get writers credit.
Oh, 100%. Mork Borg from Chris in the chat. Yeah, I've heard a lot about Mork Borg. Like that. Has that recently come out? Because everyone seems to be chatting about it on the dwindling numbers of honest RPGers on Twitter. Yeah, I've heard very, very good things about that. I think I've also I think I've also seen someone's done like a Mork cyborg version of it, so I assume that's like a futuristic one. But yeah, okay, so yeah, got a couple of ideas for elsewhere. I mean, thinking of the channel as a whole, then, like, what? I wonder what we could do. Like, not gonna lie, at time of recording, it's Pride in Bristol next weekend. Yeah, next weekend. was slightly wondering, do I do a one shot? Right? Like, is it?
Oh, what's this I have behind me at all times?
I think it would be. I think that'd be quite fun. I know. I just want to get more smaller one shots out. That'd be nice. Like, all joking aside, genuinely want to give Thirsty Sword Lesbians a go for all the right reasons.
I helped playtest it.
Did you?
Yeah.
Because it's powered by the Apocalypse, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Because
when the initial playtesting round came out for pre-production, I was part of that.
Nice. Yeah, because we've got a physical copy of it downstairs.
So do I.
And yeah, I've just been very, very, very intrigued to run it. But yeah, so I mean, between that, like Fallout, there's so many one-shot RPGs. Someone in the chat's mentioned Seagull game.
What?
A one-page Seagull game. I think I know which one we're talking about. Isn't that the one where the main
considered
mechanic...
it?
Yeah.
You considered it for a while.
The
A one-page Seagull game where we play in fucking New Prosper and torment Addy.
Well, from memory, if it's the one I'm thinking of, I think it's a Grant Howard jobby. The main mechanic is screaming as loud as you can, like a seagull.
I could not do that in my place. I would have to come over to someone else's to do it.
Like, I have problems with clipping, like us clipping now, let alone just like constantly for an hour and a half. But I mean, certainly, actually, Jason Statham's Endgame boss has got to be Vinnie Jones. Yeah, maybe we just take the charity stream, Jason Statham's Big Vacations, and spin that into campaign 3.
I mean, that'd be fun. Like a tour of it elsewhere. You know.
We've got. Oh, I want to go to this fucking fantasy world.
Jason Statham rips a portal through time and space, and he hires some like Lorivore tour guides to take him to. No, he like makes a deal with the devil. He's in hell right now, according to our canon.
He is in the 7th layer of hell, sat in, like on his, well, I think at the feet of the demon lord Ross Kemp. Yeah, I reached out to Jason. He didn't get back to me for a cameo. I feel, I feel he's missing out. To be fair,
get the channel a little bigger. Maybe he might be interested to actually run the game for us.
Well, to be honest, mate, if we get much bigger, then I think we'll leave Jason Statham in our dust, won't we? So
leave him on red.
Yeah. So, just how it goes. So, okay, lots of ideas for elsewhere. I can't, off the top of my head, I can't really think of much else to talk about without just kind of going proper nerdy deep dive.
Well, that's the point of this, isn't it? Nerds, natter, and nonsense.
That's why we're here, to fucking alienate everyone with nerd shit.
Just,
absolutely.
As I said, this is meant to be like a chat with your friends down the pub. We'll just go for it, man.
Well, okay, here's one for you. Obviously, you chose the characters you chose.
Mm-hmm.
Were there any, like, heritage choices or classes that you think, it'd be really fun to play? Because one of the things I've realised is where I'm pretty confident Campaign 2 won't be D&D, but that means that, for example, if you wanted to play a Wolfkin in the second campaign, then it wouldn't be, in inverted commas, the same Wolfkin that you would have been able to play in this one. Like, obviously, the themes and the cultural identities and everything, that will translate across, give or take. But, are there any that you thought, basically, who are your backup characters? Because also there's a classes, like I greenlit
Blood Hunter?
Well, I greenlit Blood Hunter and the Savant from Laser Llama on Reddit. Because I want to play a savant. But yeah, who like what kind of heritage class combos do you wish you could have played?
Don't have a backup character for this one. They probably should.
That's a mistake, isn't it, Carl?
Given that Comstock is sort of frontline fighter, I probably should, just in case. Given that your whole critting malarkey that you've been on at the moment, I might end up having to get I
can't help having hot dice, Carl.
I also don't have a backup.
However, I think if I was to have a backup character, I might just default to my old favourite class and just rock out a barbarian. Probably Wolfkin barbarian. I think that sounds like it could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's fun.
I have an idea, but it's something I'd want to sort of explore a little more in one of the next games, honestly. And it's like a storyline that I need to keep secret from everyone else apart from the DM.
Oh, as a player who did that, you need to drop some hints because when it comes around to it, you're not happy with you.
Is this the reveal that Milia is actually a meat puppet holding a book? Oh, sorry, Milia is the book being held by a meat puppet. You heard it here first.
Without saying too much, she would be a Lorvar Bloodhunter, Path of the Lycan.
I feel like I've always wanted. I feel like I've always wanted. ADHD brain alert. I feel like I've always wanted to play a Bloodhunter.
They're shit.
Oh right.
Well. They do nothing better than any other class does, but the fantasy of them is really cool, which is why I want to play one.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
Yeah,
Chris.
Chris, I'm going to offer to run a Pick Me for Christmas one-shot. Doom-laden RPG where you play Toy Story-style characters, all wanting to be picked by the child. That sounds incredible and horrendous in English.
Is this where I'm going to get my cosmic horror?
Maybe.
You just don't want to be that toy, which is like the toy that everyone gets. Is like,
yeah. I there was a part of me that was really. I was a little upset that no one wanted to play Savant in this one, just because as a race, as a class. Intelligence-based, non-magical support character just sounded surprisingly fun, and also arguably very surprisingly fitting for the world. Like just being a very studious little bookworm, just stepping out with armed with nothing but your bottle cap glasses, and just kind of in the middle of a fight with some like horrendous mutated beast should be like doo-doo-doo, just draw it in a notebook. So like, oh, the claws are 6 inches long. Doo-doo-doo-doo.
It's in my neck.
Wasn't there that character from Attack on Titan, the chronicler, and like even to the point she's having her head crushed by one of the monsters, she's writing about them like, its breath stinks.
Yes.
I can't remember the name of the character, but yeah.
A mix of that and there's that guy on. I say there's probably loads of guys, but there's one in particular that just has a channel where he just finds things with really painful stings and bites. He's just like, oh, this is gonna really hurt. Ah! Just like,
I love that shock. Guy.
Yeah, I think that would have been a fantastic character concept. Oh.
Well, maybe if we come back to D&D in like, I don't know, year 5 or something.
Well, I mean, I guess the elephant in the I say elephant in the room. Like, it might not necessarily be D&D, but I mean, it could be Pathfinder. Dan might actually relent and play Pathfinder because
I know there was a strong consideration that you wanted to do Pathfinder for this initial one.
Pathfinder 2, yeah.
I was arguing hard for that one, but you know.
Yeah, it's
my first ever RPG that I was taught ever was Pathfinder 1. and it almost made me quit RPGs.
I think I do Pathfinder 2 over 1 potential. But I mean, I guess the other thing to consider is that in the aftermath of the Hasbroing OGL gate, there's now seemingly a gajillion like SRD OGL style games popping up. So Cobalt Press's ones, I think, has gone into like final beta. It was either theirs or I swear it was the Orc. Was that Pathfinder's?
I think that was Paizo's.
Yeah, Paizo is
like now that theirs are coming out, it could well be that for campaign whatever, we turn around and go, we could do D&D, or we could do, well, I mean, D&D 5.5 will be out. But yeah, there'll be other games. Speaking of D&D 5.5, the new playtest came out.
I have not had a chance to look at it yet.
Have you, Lee?
Kind of. I'm still recovering from what they did to Sorceress. I hate everything they did to Sorceress.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because like I look at the stuff that they're suggesting. I watched the video on Druid because Druid's Druid seems to be a bit of a pain point in 5th edition for a lot of players. But yeah, there's some interesting ideas coming out of it. It'd be again interesting to see how it affects other games. Specifically, just to get real specific, in the current playtest, druids don't inherit the hit points of an animal they wild shape into. So that means that a high level druid doesn't become invincible.
The main thing, I don't look into a lot of the mechanics of the playtests because that's kind of not what interests me. What interests me is giving me tools to create cool characters.
Yes.
And a lot of that is getting homogenized in the new D&D version, and I don't like that.
Yeah. Although, could you argue that when you like mass homogenize, then that allows you to be more creative? Is that an argument we could make? Okay.
I don't think it is personally, because I was talking about this with some people yesterday, and I think a good example of this is one of the new Bard colleges, the College of the Dance.
Yeah.
Part of the initial draw for being a Bard, as I understood it when I was first introduced to the game, was that your art is very personal and it can be pretty much anything. The game is now kind of pushing you and going, do you want your Bard to do dancing as their art? You choose that one.
Yeah, okay. I suppose, like, when I played Curse of Strahd, I was playing a Vistani Bard, who was a dancer rather than a player.
Yeah.
And it was just very easy to just go, okay, dance is my weapon. And, I had a word with the DM, and it's just like, instead of speaking, like, if anything has a verbal component, because she's dancing, instead I use up movement.
Yeah.
So it costs like 5 or 10 feet of movement for me to cast a spell. Which then made it very interesting for like, you immediately go, that means you can cast spells in Zone of Silence. But it also meant that in the fight where I got grappled by a grasping vine, I might well die. I might well be dead.
Yeah.
I can't move. But that felt quite fitting. But no, okay, I see where you come from.
I always find that some of the things as well, like, I tend to find with, like, especially the subclass stuff, they're really sort of like they're putting you in a box, but there's a lot of ability that you have as a DM, as you've just sort of proven, that you can take these things, and it doesn't matter what you pick, you can try and sort of blend it into something that looks like what you want it to be. It's just mechanics is always going to be the sort of odd thing, because dance has not been a thing in D&D for a while, so and I guess 14 Final Fantasy has been a big draw to suddenly people going, I want to dance.
Yeah, Etelina was based purely on the Final Fantasy 14 dancer.
Yeah.
Just that. To the point where I was just like, right, if I take sharpshooter and dart, like throwing darts and then it's like the chakrams.
Which is, it's weird that it's taken this long for D&D to have something with dance in it, seeing as the dancer, so to speak, has been a part of Final Fantasy for a long time, a long time before 14. I'm surprised it's taken them this long to let you have that desire and to actually finally do it in D&D.
Yeah.
But I kind of also get what you mean, Blade. It's like, I guess you feel very pigeonholed by sort of like, as a bard. But then I guess that's the thing, like, as playing a bard, like, you get those sort of types of bards. I guess someone who is going to be a dancer is less, not entirely, but less likely to then want to be like a singer or a talker, because you're more about training your body than you are about training your voice. So a bard who tells stories, the lore bard, is going to be sort of different to, say, the bard who's been dancing to train.
Monk in it.
Those two, Monk would kind of fall into that category, But I'm hoping they make monks better.
It's why I'm not vibing with the stuff they've done in 1D&D so far. Because a lot of the stuff is they're pigeonholing it, and that's what they did with sorcerers. I hate it. I hate it so much.
Just while we're on this little runaway thought about kind of homogenization and that, there are multiple RPGs that don't have like class systems. So for example, when we played the Fallout, the Modiphius Fallout game, all that had was your ability scores, so your special, and perks. So it was like, the Fallout games where you just go in, you just level up your skills, and then you pick your perks, and then that's how you like flavor your character. Do you feel that makes your character more personable to yourself, like to you? Because I could argue, like, I've heard people argue that when there are no like clear defined classes or roles or whatnot, every character just kind of ends up being this kind of murky mass that all kind of looks similar to the other characters.
Yeah, I mean, there has to be something that sort of differentiates characters, and this is why I think it's probably really hard to come up with a good RPG to make each character quite unique. But this is kind of why I like going on to like superheroes. There's a game called Truth and Justice, where you're writing keywords and you're assigning points to those keywords, and that's the strength of that ability. So if you write super speed, super speed is a pretty obvious one what it does, and as the sort of like the game has some sort of rules for super speed, but you can kind of define that your own way.
Yeah.
But then it also does things like super speed is just the running. If you want to then say punch really fast or like vibrate through a wall, that becomes another part of it, so you learn stunts and things. So I think that makes it more fun, because then you've got your keyword, and then you've got to think, what does that keyword mean? So super strength, okay, it means you're strong. Doesn't mean you can punch super strong. You'll suddenly then start to think on those things. And I think with D&D, sometimes, as we've mentioned, pigeonholing, you've got to try and make every character unique. But there's also the fear trying to make everything too generic to make it more accessible kind of just makes every character the same, unless there's something. But then you're I'm just starting to ramble now.
No, I think
I'm going to take this in a slightly different direction.
Go.
I think when you're given more free reign over your character, but the rules themselves are too complicated, it tends to trend towards only choosing the best choices. Because why would you not? Which is a problem I have with Pathfinder 1.
Yeah. Every time I've played Pathfinder 1, I felt like when I choose a feat, I have to choose the best one.
Yeah.
because yeah, I always felt the maths was a bit punishing, but
When I was making my first ever Pathfinder character, it took 3 hours, and I was given the spell list, and the person who was teaching me was like, okay, like, choose the ones, don't look at effects, choose the ones you think would best fit your character. But then, as I was looking through the spell list, I was like, this is completely useless. It has maybe uses in maybe 1 or 2 situations, and they're very specific. Why would I ever choose this?
But D&D
Even if it's a
like
character
that as
choice?
well. Like, not to play devil's advocate, but D&D has a lot of redundant spells these days that are very cool in flavour, and unless you have the right DM, they are a waste of paper.
all right,
That's-
Anton, all right.
I think it's a little more different in something like 5th edition, because slack can, I hate calling it slack, but slack can be picked up. If it's something like Pathfinder, where I have, for example, when I was making 7, my first ever character, 2 spells that really fit her would have been Putrefy Food and Drink and Bleed. Putrefy Food and Drink rots and spoils like edible food and drink in a certain area, and Bleed makes a person who is downed and is like made their death save start dying again. 2 spells that would have fit her really well, but they were so niche that it was just wasting like points for something that could have actually done something.
Yeah.
And if it's a 5th edition, it's a lot, like, the rules are more simple, so you've got more wiggle room to like choose something that's not as good.
Yeah.
But in a more complicated system where like tiny bits of maths matter, I can't afford to pick something like that.
I think I also relate to that. So with the Shadowrun, the actual Shadowrun rules, which are like borderline simulationist. So around about the time that we did Shadowrun London Underground, Shadowrun 6th edition had just come out, and there's a part of me that was just like, oh, okay, maybe this is like a happy coincidence. And like, I could feel my brain leaking out my ears. But again, that, like, because it was so granular and so modular, which I know a lot of people really enjoy, but there was a part of me that was just like, if my players are fretting more about what type of scope to put on their rifle in combination with the ammo they've just bought, rather than the mission, then I feel like I've gone wrong. It's like something's gone a bit weird. But I mean, I think like to pick up the sprawl, the system we are using, there are classes, but they're very, very broad. But it uses like a keyword system similar to what you were talking about earlier with Truth and Justice. But like the stuff you get, because it's all based off the keywords, the keyword, like what those keywords do naturally change contextually. I love that. So Julia's character, Ellie, has a flashy motorcycle. And depending on what situation Ellie finds herself in, a flashy motorcycle can cause a number of different things.
Yeah.
And sort of like the abilities that each of the kind of classes gets, the archetypes get, are really kind of, they only get sort of like 2 or 3 over the space of their career, but they're really kind of big and macro abilities. And like Anton's one comes up, because Marcus, his character, is a soldier, which is like a soldier of the espionage war against the corporations. So his thing, one of his abilities is, I love it when a plan comes together, I think it's called. Because like the soldier is that kind of archetype. But it's a
cigar in mouth.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Like in the planning room, like low hanging light, looking at a map, like blueprints. That's the archetype of the soldier. But yeah, at the beginning of a mission, he can make a roll, and then depending on how well he does, he gets a certain number of tokens. But then he can use those tokens to either, like during the run, just like conjure a piece of equipment or a weapon or something. And the idea is, it's the sort of thing where like, oh, you've escaped to the roof of the building because you're being chased by security teams and you've got no escape route. The soldier goes, well, I planned for this, and then spends a token, pulls out that duffel bag that he hid there during the planning phase, and pulls out the the grapple gun launcher, like the grappling hook gun launcher. Or so you can make stuff appear, or you can just teleport. So, for example, if like, oh, the hacker's been kidnapped and like stuffed in a room somewhere, and then the soldier can go nope, and then just like he's planned for that. The soldier's planned for that, so he just appears and gets the guard in a chokehold. And it was just those kind of big abilities did so much more for role identity than like a sorcerer with sorcerer points.
Yeah. Because I mean, if it's keywords, you are obviously you'll probably have like a certain amount of like that you can use, but it makes the character more yours because like you're really thinking things through. Like the way Truth and Justice works, you have like one set which is just like you as a person, and then your powers. So you as a person, you can even put things like your day job or your or personal things about you, and that's where you're building the character. And you basically build like you could put anxious, and that becomes a weakness to your character that the DM can look at, be like, you know, I'm going to play with that. And something like Truth and Justice gives you rewards if your DM punishes you because of your negative keywords. Yeah. And yeah, that's a really good way of building characters. They make them more personal, and it also removes a lot of like stress of having to be like, what's the best feat to take? What's the best this to take? What's the, you know, you can't really min-max with keywords.
Yeah, no, that's true. All food for
So
thought.
we come back to Monster of the Week again, huh?
Oh, yeah.
So the last question that popped up: Zelda exploration game when in about 3 years' time when I finally finish Tears of the Kingdom. As an aside,
I've only done one regional phenomenon right now. I've spent so long on that map, and I'm like, oh yeah, there's a story I need to be following.
yeah, yeah. As an aside, there won't be a release this weekend, because DM Dan has caught the Legend Tears of the Kingdom bug, and also may or may not be like I've I've upgraded my nerdiness, and I'm looking at a table full of Warhammer models that I've been painting this week. So yeah, there's I mean there might be a video. I'll see how I feel tonight and tomorrow. So last quick one, real quick. Julia remembers I was developing an RPG system of my own that was attached to a Proto Elsewhere setting. Would I ever run that? That was a sort of runoff of the Yggdrasil setting. So yeah, it was one that Carl and I were bouncing around.
My God, like
the murky depths of the age of dinosaurs.
Yeah, we're coming up to like 8 years on that, possibly even longer.
Yeah, quite a while back.
Hey, if we're looking about RPG systems we've made, if we want to playtest, we bleed neon.
We can make it one shot.
Yeah.
But yes, would I ever go back to it? Truthfully, probably not. It takes.
Although Yggdrasil's a setting, though.
It's a setting, yeah. But no, it was a whole. There was like it was a D6 system, and then you had your stats, and that was a pool. And I think in hindsight, especially now that the RPG scene has exploded, I would let someone else do the hard work, because they'll probably do a much better job than me. But yeah, it's the whole thing of like be interested to try different things. Interestingly, actually, that dice system where you had like pools of dice, and then you rolled your d6 and you could like actively attack and actively defend, and blah, 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 is very, very similar to Blades in the Dark.
There's that mention again of Blades in the Dark.
There's that mention again. Whatever could it mean? So I think with that, yeah, we'll start to bring it to a close. Thank you, everyone in the chat, for chatting and asking
You're
questions.
awesome.
You are all very, very, very awesome, and we love all of your faces, especially when they're kind of squidged together in one horrendous cosmic horror mass. Thank you, Carl and Lane, for coming along and chatting.
You can't get rid of me now.
No. In fact, I'm going to leave this live stream running for the next fortnight, and Lane will just sit there stoically.
Yeah, I will. I'll just stare like this.
Wonderful.
Come back in a fortnight and there's Lane like, she forgot to eat or drink.
Yes. If you enjoy this sort of stuff, this is the second episode. So presumably there's a first episode that you could also watch. But we do this fortnightly, every Friday, 7:30. If you like the sort of stuff that we're talking about, or any of the systems that we spoke about today, you can watch our actual plays, which are released weekly, apart from this week, apparently, where these two, Reprobates and a couple of others, come along and allow me to subject them to horrible and horrendous things in the interest of entertainment.
And then there's also the RPGs we play.
Yes. Yes. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. But otherwise, I will see you all in a bit.
Catch you later.
Doodly bye!
Bye.
Ciao.